Hey everyone, this is Jen. You're watching BPD Woman. On this channel, you will learn how to more effectively live with your borderline personality disorder. I will try to help you better understand your emotions, why you feel them the way you do, why you feel them so much, so intensely, and I will offer my own personal experiences and DBT skills so that you can live more effectively with your BPD. Using dialectical behavior therapy and in sharing my insight, it's my goal to help you realize your life goals in love, relationships, money, career, whatever they may be. And I'm a living example that recovery is possible. My BPD is not totally gone away. There are definitely things that I still need to work through and will, be there sometimes in the back of my mind, but I'm better equipped now and more stable and more regulated than I've ever been in my life. So that said, I'm not a therapist or a life coach or a psychologist, but I am a person who can answer the following question, which is, what is it like to live with borderline personality disorder? I was diagnosed about 21 years ago, and since then I have done multiple rounds of DBT. I have done extensive research. I've read, reread every book, every major workbook. I've done at least DBT 3 to 5 times. It's something in there, minimum. And in addition, I've been in intensive therapy, anger management classes, so I do have a lot of experience under my belt. And I want to tell you that if you have BPD, congratulations, because you have one of the most treatable, well-researched, well-diagnosed personality disorders with a higher recovery of remission and success, with many more experts now trained in recognizing personality disorders and especially teaching in dialectical behavior therapy. So out of the 15 or so personality disorders that exist, you do have the most highly treatable one. So if that sounds good, please hit subscribe and the bell below so you never miss a beat. I produce anywhere from 3 to 5 videos each week, and most of them come from my day-to-day experiences in addition to the kinds of treatment and knowledge that I've learned in the last 21 years. So if that sounds good, let's get going. Today's video, and by the way, I've let the cats and the dog in the room today, so I just feel like them being, this is the day after Thanksgiving, so I hope you've had a nice Thanksgiving, whatever you've done, whether you sat in your underwear and played Xbox or you had a dinner with your friends or your family. I hope it was a nice one. It's a little bit of a slower day here for me, so I'm just chilling with the animals in here. So let's hope that one of them doesn't, run across the screen. Today's video is, I opened up video suggestions, and both Kim and Delaney reached out and suggested that I talk about toxic shame. So this is what Kim wrote in one of her comments when I asked for videos. Could you please talk about toxic shame, unworthiness? I think borderlines can sink into the feeling of never feeling good enough. Any tips on that would be great. So here we go. This is for you. So let's talk about shame and borderline personality disorder. 3 reasons it happens and 3 ways to heal it. Okay, I am a solution-based kind of person, and you'll often find that's what comes out of these videos. And with everything, I normally say be effective. So however you can go about achieving something that's not harmful to you or someone else, and it's the quickest way to get there, I say be effective and do it. So let's talk about shame. And I'm going to be telling you some personal things that are very shameful to me. Even though I've had 21 years of recovery under my BPD, there are a lot of dark skeletons in my closet, and there are a lot of things that I am not proud of. And I got stuck in thinking and beating myself up and ruminating over those things for quite a while. There's another video I have about rumination and how to kind of get yourself unstuck out of it. And rumination, I think, really plays into shame because, you get hooked into a feeling or a behavior that you did or something that happened to you and you replay it over and over and over and over. It's what I tend to call the tapes. So some things to remember during this conversation on shame are the following. Those of us with BPD, or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD, you experience emotions for longer, more intensely, with a slower return to baseline. So I've used this analogy of emotional fibromyalgia. When it is drizzling rain outside for a non-borderline person, it is an absolute tsunami for those of us that feel intense feelings for longer, more intensely, with a shorter return to baseline. I also want you to keep in mind during this chat that we also tend to think in black and white terms, or what they call splitting. And the black and white thinking is not always very obvious. It's only maybe after some reflection that you might think, oh, right, that was kind of black and white or splitting thinking. So the shame can feed into black and white thinking because you either see it one way or the other way, and that's it. So in trying to heal your shame, I also want you to think about being able to see in the gray. Another third thing I'd like you to keep in mind during this talk is that because of the trauma or the complex trauma that you have grown up in, have experienced, however that presented itself, sexual abuse, parental abuse, abandonment, neglect, you have lived and learned to live in a state of hypervigilance right here and anxiety. And hypervigilance means, always being on alert. Essentially, it means always being on alert for something dangerous to happen, like always looking over your shoulder. And there's nothing wrong with being prepared and being safe and being self-aware. That actually can help keep you safe and alive. But a extended hypervigilance can play into anxiety, which leads into shame. So you lived in these states for a very long time. If you lived with your parents and you experienced abuse, then you at least dealt with it anywhere from 18 to 25 years. So, you could have experienced, maybe if we had experienced one thing of trauma or, something that happened traumatic one time, but then otherwise we grew up in a very stable environment, we may have not developed a personality disorder. And the fourth and final thing that I'd like you to think about is that those of us with BPD also tend to think that other people have answers over us, that they're smarter than us, that they have life figured out more, that they are perhaps more with it, they seem like they have their life sorted out, and it's actually simply not true. They may have an ability to deal with their emotions a bit better, which may give them the opportunity to plan and follow through and succeed a little bit better. But it doesn't mean that they're smarter than us or have more answers than us. We all have something to offer to each other. So I want you to keep those 4 points in mind, that you experience emotions longer, more intensely, with a slower return to baseline, that you think in black and white thinking, which can make it difficult for you to see the gray and get out of your shame or your rumination, that you've experienced long-term post-traumatic stress or trauma, which has led you to be in a state of hypervigilance and anxiety, and you also tend to think that other people have the answers than you do, and they're the experts and you're not. So let's go right into it. 3 reasons why you feel shame and how to get out of it, and how to heal yourself. So the first one that I'd like to say is we have within us a low self-worth and a real hard time self-validating. We have been consistently told over and over living in an invalidating environment that, that abuse didn't happen. No, I can hug you if I want. You don't get to have any physical boundaries. I'll come in your room whenever I want. I'll say whatever I want to you. And so you have grown up with a a lower sense of self-worth, a confused identity, and a real trouble to be able to validate yourself. And validating yourself can be as simple as, I'm feeling sad today, and that is because someone stood me up when it was a really important event for me, and that makes me feel bad. Boom. You're allowed, you tell yourself that. But that's how you would validate. It's an example of validating yourself. But if you have a hard time validating yourself, then you may not quickly identify why you feel the feeling. Well, I'm feeling really dysregulated. I feel like cutting. I feel like drinking. Well, why is that? And then you just kind of get in like this emotional tornado, and you find it difficult to identify what it is you are feeling and why. Okay. If you've been told over and over and over again that your reality is not your reality, well, guess what? You don't leave the house at 19 years old and like suddenly have a strong sense of identity. That's just not how it works. So you have let other people dictate to you what it is that you feel. And when you grow up out of the house and you're now in the adult world, you look to people that sometimes really just aren't worth your time. And even if they are worth your time and they're solid, positive people, you let them inform what you should be feeling. That, if you're upset about something and they say something like, you shouldn't feel bad about that, you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I shouldn't feel bad about that. So the way to heal this is to learn to validate yourself. And the way to heal is to do behaviors that are true to you, enforce who you are, to thine own self be true, essentially. And so when you begin to do things that are masterful for you, when you are headed towards your recovery goals or behaviors, if you stop cutting yourself one day, or you promise yourself that you're going to work on your anger, and you keep up with those behaviors, that really starts to build up a sense of self-worth. And with a greater built up sense of self-worth, you'll also begin to become more masterful in validating yourself. It takes a long time. I say this a lot in my videos, but it will take a long time, and that's okay, because these behaviors and trauma didn't occur over one night. They occurred over a decade or two. So it's going to take you a while to unwind them. So that's fine. Just chip at it wherever you can. Ways that I healed myself so that I had a greater sense of self-worth, that I'm able to feel validated. For instance, I had a problem with my car, and there was engine oil coming through some of the vents. And I knew that it was engine oil. It was like, on my sanitizer, there was these black spots that were like shooting through, and I could see it on the dashboard and I know what engine oil looks like, okay? We all know what engine oil looks like. And I told my mechanic over the phone, and, I said, hey, there's this engine oil coming through the vents. Like, any ideas like why that would happen? And he said, well, I'd have to see it, make sure you're just not being crazy. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? This is what I said on the phone. I was like, I'm sorry, what? I think he was trying to make a joke, but jokes are relatable because there's a half truth in every joke. So, what he was essentially doing was trying to question my reality, whether I was actually seeing engine oil come through. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I know what engine oil looks like, and it's coming through the vents. Is that something that you can look at or not? Now, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, he would have been like, oh, if he would have said, well, I'd have to look at it, make sure you're not crazy, I probably immediately would have started doubting myself. Well, like, did I see engine oil? Like, well, maybe it's just soot coming through the windows. Yeah, well, he is the expert, he knows things more than I do. And then, like, maybe a day later, I'd feel bad about myself because I had let him talk down to me and wouldn't have stuck up for myself. I don't do that now. So this is a small way to heal yourself. Creating boundaries, enforcing them with others is another way to build up your self-worth and your validation. You may tell yourself, I do not like this person calling me 10 times a day. I do not like my boss coming into my cubicle so close to me. I do not like, my neighbor's cat taking a dump in my flower bed, right? You make a boundary. Hey, could you make sure your cat stays in your yard? Hey, do you mind just standing a little bit over there across the cubicle? I get a little bit tense or claustrophobic, right? Enforcing your boundaries. Another way to feel masterful, to be able to build up self-validation, to heal your shame, is staying on your schedule. Oftentimes we can be derailed with emotional circumstances. We may sleep all day. We may get so emotional and sad that we go into a crying fit for an hour, and then it's only 1 p.m. in the day, and then the rest of the day is lost because now we just can't get to what we needed to get to. Following through on your promises, did you tell someone that you would show up at 5 p.m. on Friday? Well, please, know that hopefully showing up 9 times out of 10 is going to build up a greater confidence in you and also show you greater reliability to the other person. Now, you don't have to show up 10 times out of 10, right? It's that gray area. So nobody can show up 100% of the time, all of the time, but you are aiming for a high ratio, right? You don't want to show up 2 times out of 10 because quickly you're going to become known as the unreliable person. And I don't think you want that. I don't. Another way to self-validate, to heal yourself from shame and to create mastery within yourself for me, one of the great ways was not losing emotional control. Even if that meant like I was bare-knuckled, clenched fist, and I just had to walk out of a room, right? And now even just walking suddenly out of a room is very jarring for people. And they've told me that, I had that happen to me at work once. I just had to leave before I burst into tears. But for me, leaving in a jarring manner was a lot better than bursting out into tears. That would have given me less emotional control. So being able to self-validate, that will help build your confidence, trust yourself more, look to your own opinion so that you become asking yourself, what do I think about me? Instead of focusing on what do they think about me? And the same could be said of when you meet other people, right? If you meet someone and everyone seems to love this other person and everyone has something positive to say, but something just doesn't sit right with you, it's okay for you not to like that person. Okay. Number 2. Another reason that we feel shame is because bad things have been done to us. Really terrible things. I mean, I saw my father try to kill my mother. I saw my mother overdose on drugs in front of me, and this is all before the age of 3 or 4. I saw him beat her. I saw him beat me. You may have been abandoned. You may have been abused sexually, emotionally, physically. You may have been neglected. You may have had parents that were physically there, but emotionally not there because of drugs or their own emotional problems. You may have felt shame because growing up, your parents were divorced and you'd have to spend a holiday with one person or one family member like your mom, but your dad didn't get you that holiday, and maybe you felt bad about it. Maybe they said things to make you feel bad about it. Maybe they would be crying in the days leading up to you having to go over to your other parents' house, and you would say, why are you sad, Mommy? Oh, I don't want you to leave tomorrow. Well, that you don't say that to a 10-year-old. In fact, you shouldn't say that ever. Well, I shouldn't. Excuse me. However, the point is that things have been said to you that made you feel a sense of shame, or they've been done to you to make you feel a sense of shame. And so now you have 10, 15, 20 years of this shame that's been built into you through other people. So the way to heal it is to first understand it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You didn't deserve it. It's bullshit what happened to you. It's not right. Consider cutting these people out of your life. This will be another video that I do, but I'm not on terms with anyone in my family. And honestly, I don't think that I have had the success and recovery that I've had with my mental health and that I've had with my BPD if I had stayed in contact with my family, if I even had stayed in the same state. I mean, there's several states between us. So I'm not interested in letting that toxic whatever seep back into my life, because I know that that's going to cause, and there's my dog looking out the window. Hello. Hi. I'm not, I hope that's not too distracting. I apologize, but she is very healing to me. So maybe her presence in this video will be healing to you. I'm not letting that toxic shame come back into my life, because that's going to start to become normalized to me again. And I've worked very hard to reinforce that what has happened to me is not normal. This is not okay. This is abuse. I will not deal with this. Cut off. So understand that it wasn't your fault. Understand that what happened to you is wrong, traumatic, abusive, sometimes illegal, oftentimes illegal. And tell yourself, okay, I didn't create these problems for myself. I didn't wish to have a personality disorder put upon me, but I do. And now I'm going to solve it. Why? Because I want the best life for me. That's why. So heal it by understanding what it was that happened to you. Deep work on your part can help reverse it. And consider whether if these people who have in part contributed to your BPD, or even if they're people that are around you right now that just make you feel bad about yourself, get rid of them. Just unless there is a real deep, serious reason. I mean, I know that sounds cold. And, you know, in my 20s, I went back and forth where I wouldn't talk to them for a year, and I wouldn't talk to them for a year, and then I would, and then there would be another incident. You know, it's just cyclical. You know, they don't wake up one day and they're just better. You know, if they haven't had intensive therapy and really committed to that recovery or making that amends with you, then what's the point? Nothing's changed. Do you want to stay stuck? Because they're going to stay stuck, and they'll take you down right with them. All right. Number 3. The third reason that you might feel shame is because you've done some bad things. Some shitty things. And let me tell you a few things that I've done that have caused me a lot of shame. I have, in my past, been violent with my ex-romantic partners, including my husband. And I was arrested once for domestic violence. And, you know, my partner at the time, he did not want me to go away in handcuffs. I remember them this is a long time ago, this is about 20 years ago, putting me in handcuffs, taking me out, 3 cops, and my boyfriend at the time just sobbing, just in tears, and me being like, okay, like, just, this is what you need to do. You need to call my dad. I need to get a lawyer. Yeah, and I mean, watching him be sad for me to be arrested, even though that I deserved to be arrested. When I was married, I had verbal altercations that grew into physical altercations that were often prompted by alcohol or drugs or something else like that. And through a fight once, I gave my ex-husband a black eye. This is not the reason that we divorced. We divorced for other reasons, but obviously it didn't help, right? And this is in my early 20s, mid-20s. I'm 41 now. And I remember he worked for the federal government, and so he would have to go into work, and certainly he could not show up to work with a black eye. And I remember feeling so bad about this and like being worried that somebody was going to find out, somebody was going to know at work that I was a shitty person, that he was in an abusive relationship, which he was with me, that he maybe could be in trouble with his job, maybe that they would ask him questions and that I would get in legal trouble, right? So there's all this shame and anxiety building up. And we had to go to the grocery store and go buy him makeup. Yeah, women's makeup to put on his eye to shield it. Talk about a low point in your life. That was, that was probably one of the lowest points in my life, in addition to being arrested. I have yelled at people more times than I would like. I have accused people of things like, I know you went through my phone. I know you've been cheating on me. Now, half the time that might have been true, but not all of the time, right? I've said terrible things, I've let people down. I haven't shown up when I said I would. That is not acceptable behavior. That's terrible behavior. That's behavior that I would tell somebody to run away from if they were in a partnership like that. So how did I heal that? How can you heal that? Well, beating up on yourself doesn't work. It doesn't freaking work. And it won't help you. It won't help the other person that you may be entangled in a shameful situation with, or perhaps, it's just, you feel shame, self-inflicted shame because you've done something shitty 20 years ago that nobody knows about, and, you're carrying it with you. Maybe you stole something from your sister and you never told her and whatever. So the first thing to do is you cannot beat up on yourself. One, it's not going to help you. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to make you better. If anything, it's going to make you feel worse. It's going to keep you stuck up in a shame cycle. And it's going to make you also look more manipulative to other people. Looking back on it, when I was at the grocery store with my ex-husband and we were about to go get him eye makeup for his eye to cover up his black eye that I gave to him, when I now look back on it, I should have been, no shoulds. I shouldn't should on myself. What I would have preferred to have done in that moment was be there more for him, I don't know how I could have done that, but I could think on it. But then I was worrying, crying. He was ending up comforting me. Like, that comes off bad. So get out of that shame spiral and don't beat up on yourself. The second thing to do is address that behavior and change that behavior. Identify what behaviors are making you feel shameful. Are you starting arguments and you don't mean to, but you're starting them every day? Are you hitting someone? Are you yelling at your dog? Are you kicking your dog? Are you stealing? Are you, leading someone on even though you don't really want them in your life? Okay. Identify what it is that needs to be fixed and then fix it and stay the course with fixing it. For me, after those two instances happened, I went back to anger management, and then I went back a second time, and I went back a third time over the course of 10 years. I kept at it. I would read articles about anger and why it happens so quickly and what to do about it. I made that cope ahead list. The other day I put up a video, and I'll put up a link here about how to cope ahead. I made a cope ahead for anger list, because it was a feeling that when acted upon in an ineffective manner caused me a great deal of shame and problems. You're going to feel anger. That's normal. You're not going to get rid of it. It's how you process it, handle it, demonstrate it that can get you into trouble. You want to choose something positive and effective. Anger can work for you. You just have to sit on it, not just boom, act on it. So I made amends. I went to address the behavior. You have to stop doing the behavior. It didn't happen overnight for me. It didn't. I have not hit someone or physically put my hands on someone outside of like a self-defense kind of situation in, a decade or more. I felt like it. I felt like it, especially with some ex-boyfriends. I'm like, you make amends with that person. You forgive yourself. You continue to work on the behavior, and then you got to let it go. You got to let it go. You can't sit there and ruminate. When it starts to ruminate, go back to those rumination tips on how to break yourself out of rumination. Use your distract skills. Foreign movies, again, for me, if you're starting to ruminate, you need to get yourself out of that because it's only going to lead you into deeper shame. Watch a foreign movie in a language that you don't speak, so that all you can do is watch the movie and read. You will, after 30 minutes, see if you're still obsessing. So these are my 3 reasons why shame and toxic shame may be in your life. 3 reasons to heal it, and 4, topic points that can lead you, those of us with BPD, into having greater shame. You experience emotions more intensely for longer with a lower return to baseline. You have black and white thinking. It's either this or it's that. So it's hard to see anything coming out of your shame or your feeling because it's hard for you to see the gray. You've experienced a great deal of trauma, which has now led you to be hypervigilant and have a lot of anxiety and always be on edge, on alert. You also tend to think that other people have life figured out over you. They have more money, they have better jobs, they've started their families, whatever. So those are some contributing factors that can lead you into feeling shame. Now remember, the ways to get out of this shame: being able to validate yourself, okay? Building up behaviors that make you feel better about yourself and stop relying on other people to tell you who you are, because when you let them do that, it makes you feel shame. Realize what shameful things have happened to you in your past that have been done to you. Understand that it's not your fault. Get on a track to healing those behaviors and think about cutting out those people. And third, identify the things that you have done to other people or to yourself that have caused shameful feelings. And then forgive yourself. Don't fixate. Don't beat yourself up. Figure out a solution to identify the problem, make amends, and then stick to a productive, recovering behavior. This has been BPD Woman. My name is Jen. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please leave me your comments, and if you feel comfortable enough, your shame story below. I don't often tell people about my domestic abuse arrest for good reason, but it is something that happened, and I tell myself it was bullshit. What you did was really terrible shit. And I've made amends, and I don't do that anymore. And that makes me feel better, not thinking, God, what a terrible person I was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Until next time, this has been BPD Woman, and for everything that you do, please be effective. Thanks, and we'll talk soon. Bye.